to the Life Career Roadmap YouTube channel. And today, my special guest is Samira Husic. Did I say your name right, Samira?
Yes,
Welcome.
you did, Samira. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the program. My glasses are playing a little bit different today. So let's go. So Samira, welcome. And as I start the conversation with my guests, I'd like to ask you, so where you come from and what's your professional background?
Sure. Thank you. And thanks for having me on your program. Yeah. As you said, I'm Samira, and I originally come from Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is part of the former Yugoslavia that may be better known to some. My professional background is psychology and counseling, and I have spent the last 20 years in community services, delivering various services, managing programs, and managing staff. Right now, I'm a general manager for multicultural services with Mercy Care in WA.
Wonderful. So, Samira, let's go back in history a little bit. And I'd like to ask you, back home, back in Bosnia, oh, by the way, which part of Bosnia are you from? Which were you born in the city?
I was born in the furthest eastern part of Bosnia, in a small town called Bratunac, which is not far from the unfortunate place of genocide that a lot of people might have heard of in the world. That's called Srebrenica, where in the 1990s genocide happened. So it's I actually went to high school in Srebrenica, so that's where I'm from.
Okay. So go back to the question then. So back there at that time, any time in your life, you think about being a psychologist, or was something that was offered to you by someone else, like peers, parents, or teachers? Or how did you find yourself choosing psychology?
It's a very good question. I don't think I've ever thought about it in that way, Sema.
I know.
I'm afraid I can't give you a short answer to that. I have
It
to.
can be long. I don't. Let's do it. Like, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you. Look, I think the set of my life circumstances brought me to the field of psychology. Back in my country, my studies were in primary school teaching. I was always interested in early childhood and attachment and all of that. So I became a qualified primary school teacher. But coming to Australia, my qualifications, like many other migrants or refugees, they were not recognized here. So I had to study again to get professional credentials.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and maybe because of my family and I, we survived the war, and when we came to Australia, my mum suffered chronic, complex PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I could see firsthand how much psychologists and counselors were able to assist her to manage that and to learn to, live with it. So, and that was quite straight after we arrived to Australia. So really that was my, and I then had some conversations with what are they called, career advisors at English classes that I undertook here. And, they ask you, what do you like doing? What are you interested in? And that was my thing, because I couldn't be a teacher. And also I was a little bit not very confident with my learning English language from scratch and all that. I was very concerned how can I teach children if I can't speak English properly. So that sort of made me decide towards studying psychology, because that was still about addressing all those developmental things that you would in a teaching profession, but being able to help a lot more people and varying age groups. So that kind of took me to psychology studies, and I never regretted. It's it gives you insight in your own, I suppose, well-being and what's going on for
Your
yourself, as
perspectives of
well as
life, right?
that's right.
Yes. So, in like with all life circumstances that you had at the point living in Bosnia, have you ever imagined coming to Australia and living in this land?
No, no, absolutely not.
So, what was your expectation of life of living in Bosnia? So, did you want to stay there? Do you want to move to a new country, a new city? How was your expectation of life living
Yeah.
in that circumstance of that we had so many conflicts around you?
Mm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I laugh when I say it was never a plan. I don't think I actually had a plan whatsoever. And I know that a lot of I guess that teenage, early, a kind of adulthood years. Yeah, I can't talk about that period of my life without talking about the war,
Yes.
because I was 16 when the war started in 1992, when soon after the Yugoslavian republics all separated into independent countries, and then the war broke out. So from the time I was 16 up until 25, I felt like, in a way their life had stopped, because you don't really think about anything. You just really think from, today to tomorrow. And it wasn't, and I do feel like often, I know I was 25, but really in my head, I was probably somewhere the age of 17 or 18-year-old, because you don't get those experiences, you don't get exposure to things. So a lot of it was guided by my mother at the time, who very soon, having become a single mom of 3, daughters, she realized that, and as you know, it's still the case in the 21st century and in developed countries as well, that life is very hard for single parents. And in the war zone and the post-war era, life would have been very difficult for girls, and there was no opportunities for employment or anything. So I was happy to go anywhere. I would have been happy just to be able to start a life, to be able to plan and to think, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? But it was my mom's choice to apply to come to Australia, because her best friend was here in Perth. And they were in contact, and we were told that people can settle here really well, and there are opportunities, there are supports. And so my mom was drawn to that, and that's how we ended up coming to Australia.
Yeah. And so you have another 2 sisters. They are younger than you and older than you?
They're younger than me.
Okay. So they had you as someone they could look and say, oh, she's older than us, she knows more than us, but the point, you all had the same experience of not knowing really who you are as the life stops, as you mentioned before, right? So everything is on hold and you know what's come up. So it's very interesting and very courageous of your mom too, having this idea to come so far away and staying here. So coming to Australia, and then you were just had your qualification as a teacher. So what were the hurdles that you had, or the roadblocks that you see in front of you as a young adult? You mentioned about the language, but what else you saw as a roadblock, or you saw everything as a new opportunity because it was a new country, completely different in every aspect?
Well, it was very different, and like moving, it's a completely new world. In my mind at the time, I remember there were a lot of roadblocks. And I think a lot of people who move country or move elsewhere to live, there is a bit of that period where what they term as honeymoon period.
Yes.
So
Beautiful.
yeah, everything is beautiful, everything is exciting. You start to see so many new things, and with that all the new opportunities. But and that's how it was for me. I thought, because we were told, okay, we all, myself and my sisters and my mum, we all had to learn English from scratch. And I thought, okay, how hard is that? So let's just get on. And in my head, I was like, I'll get to study, and but soon when you start learning, and suddenly sort of the rose glasses fell off and you start seeing the reality. Firstly, I received my qualification assessment from the what they call overseas qualifications unit.
Use assessment, yeah.
Yeah, and I could see that I had enough level of education to enter university, but really that's equivalent to year 12. So my university qualification was not recognized in any way here. And then you also start learning English, and 6 months into it, 12 months into it, you still can't have a proper conversation with anybody who speaks English. And you sort of, that's when you start feeling, oh, this is, when am I going to move past this? So I don't know if other people, many people can relate to it, but when you learn a new language, as a grown up, I remember literally feeling like something has to happen in my head, like literally having to move pieces around to be able to translate things in my mind.
So, and then when you face that struggle, that, oh my goodness, it's beautiful. However, there is another step, another level that I need to achieve. Did you have any support from the community? Do you have many Bosnians in here? So how was your situation regarding community and how you felt in that situation?
Well, a good question, Sema, because that's so important to all of us. I can't say I had any specific support from anybody particular from my community, but we did get connected. My family and I, we got connected with Bosnian community, and there were some people who were quite encouraging about it and giving the right advice instead of just being pessimistic, because we met all sorts of people, those who were very pessimistic because they couldn't achieve things, and then others who were saying, oh, because we were looking for jobs, for example, like all migrants do, you just look for any kind of job. So we were looking for cleaning jobs and those delivering pamphlets jobs. And in those days, amazing to think about it, 22 years ago, everything was still advertised in the newspaper. Yes. In a physical paper.
Yeah.
So I remember a friend who showed me Wednesday paper and the jobs section and showed me what things were called here. So it wasn't always cleaning jobs. It was sometimes under housekeeping, or depending, there were hospitality jobs as well. So to me, that was that thing when somebody actually gives you the skill that you can use. And I really valued that. So yeah, there was a lot of that sort of relying on community, because when you knew, and again, as I said, before this internet and everything being online, there was a lot of reliance on who can tell you what, and also tell you where to find information that you're looking for.
Yeah, and you touched a very important point, is you being surrounded by people that can help you to succeed instead of pushing you down, pulling you down. Because sometimes we get, as newcomers, we get people that have not been successful or have not done enough for them to really achieve what they want. And then what they say is, you never get it because I didn't get it, you cannot get it, right? So having people that have been successful, and doesn't matter how long it took them to be successful, but they know the process and they achieved something, and these people are more keen to help others to succeed too, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, wonderful. So, and the other thing they would like to know in this case, how long took you to learn English, to feel confident, to then pursue your studies or even start working in a job that could give you more perspectives?
Oh, Sema, this is embarrassing for me.
But we are here as newcomer. It took me a while too.
I know. Oh, look, it took me, I'm trying to think. It took me 2 years to finish the like the regular sort of English levels.
Yes.
And then I still didn't have enough level to enter university. So I did what they called, I don't know if it still exists, but I definitely recommend for anyone in Australia, there is a bridging course that Curtin University provided, 6 months course, all focused around English, but building up on the academic skills as well in terms of kind of preparing you for what to expect later when you start studying your course.
Yes, the language for that specific part of life. So
Yeah.
the universities too have having that courses, because I believe it's a wonderful way of you is studying in the university and then getting the atmosphere that you are just perceiving and understanding, and then also at the same time learning English. So there is no shame in that, because you have done pretty well, you know. And the reason why I ask you this question is because many newcomers, they think, oh, it's a country full of opportunities, and I will be there 3-6 months, and my English will be very polished, and I have the job that I want. And then they realize that it's not really that way, right? So
That's
a little bit more effort to be able to get there. And all the misunderstandings that we have when you don't know what to say, or when you understand something else that someone was saying. So it's like all the mistakes that we do. So you can laugh later, but at the point you feel so embarrassed, right?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I used to be, like I said, there were times when I would know I had a headache from trying so hard to remember some words. And the times when I used to carry notepad with me, and if I hear a new word that I don't understand, I would ask people to spell it for me. So I write it down and spell it, and then go home and look in the dictionary or the thesaurus to see the meaning, to see the full meaning of it.
Yes.
But building that vocabulary, you're right, it takes a lot of time and it takes patience, because this is where people can be very harsh on themselves, expecting, like you said, to master certain things within 3 to 6 months, when, you know, both you and I, and I'm sure a lot of other people have met others who, for example, were English speakers moving to a new country. And it still takes them a lot of time, because you're not only learning English, but you're not only learning the language, you're also learning the culture.
Yes.
The cultural norms, the systems. I mean, just the way that things are done. You need time to know all that. And even if you're lucky to have somebody who can guide you and support you at each of those steps, it still needs time to master it in a way. And I know that for some people, having seen a lot of migrants, newcomers from different countries throughout my career, people can be so harsh on themselves. And thinking I'm useless because they haven't achieved whatever they set to achieve within that short period of time. and can be, yeah, you're only really just doing damage to yourself. But I understand it's also hard to sort of adjust your expectations.
Yeah.
And move past, especially for highly functioning individuals. A lot of people who come to Australia are professionals, highly functional. They already have their like personal and professional kind of pride.
Yes.
So and that kind of has to shift when they come here in order to sort of just build that network, to readjust. And yeah, it's very hard. I don't know how. I mean, there is no way to, I guess, explain it unless all I can say is patience, like
Yeah.
being kind with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point, because moving to a new country, as many people are seeking something, right? They want a better life, better career,
Yeah.
better something. They, of course, were not happy where they were, otherwise they would not leave. So leaving
Yes.
is an opportunity to grow. However, to be able to grow, you need to sometimes set back. And many people want to leave that space where they were, that they knew everyone, they knew the system, they knew the culture, they had a very stable and a network that they could rely on. Coming to a new country and become invisible, just a number, and not knowing and
Yeah.
afraid of saying things or interpret things wrongly. And
Yes.
also they feel, as I say, is becoming a second-class citizen in a first world country,
Yes.
because you leave that all the status that you had before for someone who comes with skills and a middle career level, and start from zero
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Able to grow. And is the patience and knowing what I want from now on, because it's building a new life. It's not just, and you have left so many things behind, and coming to the point that they think about what I have done with my life. Did I
Yes.
make the right choice? So they doubt themselves all the time,
Yes.
and they believe they
Yes.
won't be able to be there anymore. But there is a little magic thing that happens when they start having compassion about themselves and say, hey, let's do this, right?
Yes.
In the right way, instead of just jumping and trying instead of doing. So it has many aspects of that. So that's what I see every day working with newcomers. So and let's go now with the universe. So you have done also an MBA in administration, business administration, of course. And how do you feel now putting everything together in Australia and working in the industry that you work now, that is helping refugees and newcomers in Australia to settle well?
Oh, look, it's been a journey, and just touching on that a previous point, I think, yeah, being kind to yourself, and also, I understand, um, I guess, the drive that some people may feel, because usually you move, like you said, you move to another country because you want to achieve more, or you're not happy, so you want to find something that you didn't have before. Um, but allowing time for that, and being kind and understanding. I remember feeling in my probably first 10 years in Australia, because I spent first 2 or 3 years learning English, getting my first job, all of those things, and then studying at university whilst working at the same time, and then having a family. And I felt like I was working 150% all the time. And I could do that because I was young, and I had, I had that energy and time to spend on different things. And it wasn't until I sort of, it was, I think it was after I had my first child and I finished my postgrad in counseling. So having finished, and having also bought my own house here, that I think I felt I could stop and reflect. And I reflected and I realized that up until that moment, I was like this, churning, almost trying to make up for the lost time in my early youth.
And you got tired.
And I got tired, exactly. But it was a time also to kind of stop, consolidate. And what I did realize, about myself, that life is learning. And you said working with newcomers, refugees, I was I considered myself lucky to have learned so much from people that I worked with and engaged with. I learned things that I would have never learned if I stayed in my home country.
Mm-hmm.
Different cultures, traditions, cuisines, cultural norms. And the more I'm learning, the more I realize how similar we all are, not how different we are. And I find that so enriching. And I think part of that was also the reason why I decided to study for a master's of business administration, because it was, I learned about myself that I love to learn. So that's my drive. But it's also about keeping up to date and, being in a professional world, you do have to keep up with things. And I didn't want to be 40 and having 10 years without any formal studies. So for me, it was about building my CV, as well as, I guess, learning a completely new thing, because it was about deciding what should I do. And I thought MBA is something really different. So learning, spreadsheets, budgets, business models, all of that. Completely different
Completely
world.
different, out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's it's almost like proving to yourself that you can still learn new things and face new challenges. So that's probably very selfish reasons to be studying.
Wonderful.
But I
I love
enjoy
that. And talking about business is, it's not other thing that I always mention to Samira is we see our life as a business, we succeed. And there are many people that see business as evil, as people just want to make money, but money moves what we see, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's something good. It's for good. It's not for bad. So of course there are people that they don't deal with money pretty well, but the majority, if you think about, it's for good. So my philosophy is, if you treat your life as a business, is there are three things that one thing, the big thing that business need to do in three different levels. One is investment, and investment in time to develop a business idea of the product or the service, who they are serving, right? Who needs their service or products. And the other investment is money. Of course, you need money to develop your product, your service, to contract people to work with you, to grow your business, investing to make more money, investing money to make more money. The third one is the good intention. If a business opens to say, you're not go ahead, people won't buy my products, and they're afraid, they will not be able to grow. So if you translate this to our lives, we need to invest time to learn, to grow, right? To get to know people, to get to know ourselves, what we want, what is important to us. Time to also invest money to grow, money to pay our sites, pay the house, pay the family. Even if you go with a friend for a coffee and say, oh, today is on me, it's like you're offering something good with that money. You are investing, you are buying their friendship, but you are making, giving a treat. It's so nice, right? And the other thing is the intention of succeed, going with the good emotions. So I see lots of association, but relationship between life and business. And because I like business so much, so I end up thinking this way, and I see you as your life. You treated your life as I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, and I wanted to invest. So we invested in you, and it's wonderful. And only you can do this to yourself, nobody else, right? So
Thank you. I love that analogy. I really like that. I haven't thought about it in that way, but you're right. It is like if you don't invest in yourself, no one else would.
yeah.
That's true. That is so true. Yeah.
And you are the service and the products for people that to employ you, right?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So I can contribute this way. So pay me, and then I can help
Yes.
you.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yes. So, and then put this all together. Working in this field in the industry of not-for-profit organization and refugees and migrants, have you decided to work in this field because of your history or your journey that you saw that it could help more people that went through the same thing that you went through? Or what was your decision behind your thoughts behind the decision of working in this industry?
It was definitely because of what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, you know how, as you just said, with regards to what you have to offer, what's your goods and services that, that you can offer to others. Originally, my first job was, not my first job, but my first job in community services was as a bilingual support worker, working with other people from Yugoslavia, and they were mainly elderly. And really, that brought such warmth to me. It didn't feel like a job. When you get that sort of that's what they call intrinsic reward. Regardless of the money that you paid, you just come home and you feel good because other people have expressed their gratitude, or you can see how much it meant to them what you did as part of your job. And from very early in my career here, I learned that's the meaning I want. Like you said, we all need money. We need to make money to pay bills. But I realized if I can pay my bills by doing what I love doing, that's even better.
Oh, that's the point.
Yes.
The box.
Yes. So that's and it just grew from there. I was already in my uni studies. I was already studying psychology when I was doing that job in community service organization, and that sort of just kept building that love towards working in this field. And then obviously it's only in recent years that we talk about lived experience as, that's valued as expertise in itself. In those days, 20 years ago, we didn't really talk about it in that way, but that was my lived experience that took me on that journey of helping others. And along the way, you sort of, you kind of, this is going to sound really weird, but you kind of on your own healing journey as well.
Yeah, that's right. I agree.
So it's kind of like, I feel I often think how lucky I was to actually embark on this journey, really not by a pre-planned set of anything. It was more about, taking on the opportunities that came ahead of me. And this is another thing where I think when we started the conversation, when we talked about being patient and kind to yourself, there's another part to it. It's about taking opportunities and not being too scared. Because I've met a lot of people who are scared,
Yeah.
and for that they decline an opportunity. For me, for whether for lack of intelligence or for me just being naive, I always said yes. I'm that kind of person. I just said yes. And I remember when they emailed me and asked me whether I wanted to be bilingual worker for this group of elderly people from Yugoslavia, and I was thinking, I just replied saying, yes, I'd love to. When would you like me to start? And then I was thinking, I never worked with older people. I have no idea. What am I going to do with them?
I'm speak with them. That's it. I'm speaking and that's it. I know how to speak with them. You know how to, right? Using your skills. And it's wonderful when you say yes to opportunities like this because they open doors.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And
and
even though you're
challenge you.
anxious, you're really so anxious and so scared, but you kind of push through it. It's like public speaking. You know, if you don't do it, you never master
You
it.
never. And then you are learning every day and you are polishing it every day. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting because when you talk about your career, what you said is based on the construction career theory. And
Okay. There's
yeah,
a
it's a
theory.
theory. Yeah, it's a theory behind that. And I follow this with my model of helping people through the life career design. When you come to the point that everything that you have learned in your life, not just professional, but your daily life experience, then you build your career based on that. Right?
Wow.
So it's a theory. So we start this as a career development practitioner. So you go and learn all the kind of career theories, and this one was attracted my attention, especially working with newcomers because it's your experience that when you don't know what to do, when a point in your life, I say many people say, well, I have done this, I'm not happy anymore with that. So and I want to do something else, but I don't know what to do. So there is a way that we go and work together to help people to discover what they are keen to do, but they cannot see in front of them.
Yes.
Their decision, but we can facilitate that discovery. And then there's a career construction.
That's lovely. Yeah.
It's
Thank you for
wonderful.
that. Career construction theory. I'm going to look it up.
Construction theory for your career. So I can send you the link so you have a look, and it's wonderful. So the guy that developed this theory, he's still alive, and it's an American, and I quite enjoy it. I remember being very excited when I did my one of my assignments about this. I was writing as my story. I was like, oh, this is what I want.
Yeah, there you go. That was the light bulb moment, you know, when you realize. Yes.
That's right. So now tell me more about the family that you created here in Australia as living mom and sister as your nuclear family and creating your own nuclear family here in Australia. How is for your kids? How many kids do you have? And how is for you helping them to understand your cultural background, where you come from, and how to blend these two cultures?
Good question, Sema. Again, very relevant to any of us who change countries and change, you know, culture, I guess. I've been very, very fortunate to have the support, you know, to come with my nuclear family, my two sisters and mum to Australia, and they always been my supports, which I know a lot of migrants don't have. And that can be really, really difficult. But I've also thankfully, you know, grown my own family. So I have a partner and I have two kids, my son who's 18 and my daughter who's 11, nearly 12. Bridging the cultural gap was much easier when they were little, simpler, but it's still, everything is sort of, culture is connected to specific holidays or the language,
And
but there is
around, right?
and food, yes, but there is also I'm thinking, you know, as I have been raising my children and being consciously aware that it is on me to make sure they learn something about my my culture. I also realized how much I have changed and that I'm not the same Bosnian person that I was 22 years ago. So I have acquired and adopted a lot of cultural norms in Australia, and I'm actually very comfortable with that. Except in my head, I can rationalize and separate what's coming from the Bosnian background, what's actually acquired, and what's my own version of whatever it is. Whereas for my children, it's just how it is for them. So they're probably still young to consciously separate all that. And I realize that their identities, their cultural identity, is different from mine. It's different from their dads as well, who's Australian. So their identities are, mixed. And, the time will tell how it's going to show. But I'd like to think that they are richer for having learned another language as little.
That's
and
right.
having had exposure to something a little bit different. So our household is a combination of, if you like, English Australian way with Bosnian culture, where and probably every family is different. Like you create your own little
Space in culture.
yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very funny. I mean, my son was when I was little, I believe I mentioned this before. I even did a video with this on Instagram. When he was born here, but we went back to Brazil, and then we came back to Australia. He went to school, and for him, he couldn't have the concept of eating sandwich at lunchtime. For him, was very difficult, and his whole school years, people or the kids would look at him as weird because he would bring a meal at lunchtime, right? So it's like, how come? And then I remember he had a little buddy that the school had a system. They knew boys or girls would come to school. They had a buddy with someone who was in an old higher class. And one of the moms came to me and said, hey, my son is inquiring me why I don't send pasta with prawns to while Lewis has this. So, well, and then his mom, he's always wants he wants my pasta always, mom. I need to hide sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's very, very nice to see this blend. But for him was a moment of challenge as well when the kids saw him as a weird, bring different food.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course, it is, and I realize that's something that our children have to manage.
Yes.
In their own little networks, because they have all they're part of these systems and networks that we're not necessarily part of. But yeah, it's been like that for I know, sometimes we have leftovers from dinner, and that's what I pack for lunch.
That's right.
And I know when my daughter was asked at school, what is it you're eating? And she would say the name of it in Bosnian language. And of course, kids don't understand. What's that? And she would just say, oh, my mom's Bosnian, so she cooks this food.
It's not your fault.
So that's what it is.
It's my mom's fault. She just said to me. Oh, that's something that you can laugh after, right? But while you are in the situation, it's like, oh my goodness, how can I?
It's that discomfort. It's that discomfort, and it's I've seen that with adults as well, and I'm sure you have, and a lot of people again. You kind of learn by observing, but you also learn what to do and how to do things. And how important, for me, it's really important to stay true to who you are.
Yes.
Of course, it doesn't mean that you offend other people or anything, but for me, it's really important that I can be myself, whether I'm at work or with my friends, and that, of course, I have different networks, private and family, community and professional and all of that. But I've seen some people, for example, who from Muslim backgrounds, if they don't eat pork or they only eat halal foods, when they are within professional networks, they will just say, oh, I'm vegetarian, And there was a time, you just reminded me, when my son, he was about 10 or something, when he said at school, they had some pizza night, something, whatever it was. And he said he was allergic to ham because I'm like, who's allergic to ham? I've never heard that before.
Me, mom.
But that was his way of avoiding to eat pork.
Yes.
And I can understand, as a child, you learn different ways. But as
Yes.
a grown-up, I also understand that some people, find it very difficult to keep explaining to others
That's right.
about themselves. So sometimes they find the short answers that will just stay with that. And maybe, like I said earlier, for either for lack of intelligence or for just being so naive, I refuse to do that. I will give a long explanation that is true to me, because I can't stand half truths. I mean,
That's right.
I don't know. It sort of burdens my mind if
And
I
then you
say
need to remember that you have said something, so you can get someone catch you. And then,
even though it's not a lie that hurts anybody, but I'm like, why would I burden my own mind with something that I have to think about later on?
that's right. That's right. So, Samira, the other thing also that we see a lot, as you said, about avoiding and finding an excuse, is something that we see a lot here in Australia, because you have a very strong culture of going to pubs and after hour networkings, right?
Yes.
And many newcomers, they don't drink, or because of their religion, or because of their choice. And
Hmm.
somehow they feel excluded from these events and networkings, right? And normally I say to them, you don't need to lie that you don't go there because you don't drink, like because your religion doesn't allow you to be in an environment where people are drinking. You can say to them straight away, look, this is my situation. Because otherwise, if you don't explain, they make assumptions that you don't want to come. So it's
Yes.
even worse, right? So that's the explanation. And then people understand the choices, but you need to give them a heads up. Otherwise, they just
Yes.
have the information that you are not coming. So if you're not
Hmm.
coming because you want to be part, don't want to be part of that. So and also for us to be more aware when we provide this kind of networking events and people are coming, and you want to be more inclusive, to have
Hmm.
at least one or two events that we can not having alcohol. It's not that you don't have all the time, but having the opportunity giving to people that don't drink to be there too, right? So it's being
Yes.
flexible and have it. Did
Yeah.
you get any this kind of experience among your clients that you work with?
A lot, and also colleagues over the years, where and it is a specific culture. It's not even, in my mind, the way I see it, it's not even related to a religion. It's just that the culture itself is, I suppose, like you said, after work, people catch up in a pub.
Mhm.
And I remember my first year when I started in a professional job, and there was an email that came through, said Christmas dinner, a Christmas lunch, whatever it was, the work was organizing. It was at the Queen's. It
Mhm.
just said the Queen's Hotel. And I guess in that time there was internet. I could have checked on the internet, but I just emailed my supervisor saying, where is Queen's Hotel?
Well, here's the address for you.
Yeah. And my supervisor emailed back and saying, you must be it was a laughing thing. It was a kind, response, but saying, you must be the only person at Perth that doesn't know where Queen's Hotel is.
No, I don't go there. I have no idea. I don't do go nightlife in Perth.
I don't know. And you're right. You get, because that's a cultural thing. People. So for me personally, I don't mind going to pubs, because I don't have to drink. If other people drink, it's up to them. It
Right.
doesn't bother me. But I know there are others who don't. So totally agree with you. In a workplace, it's really important, and this is something I suppose I've tried to influence in different workplaces that I have been in the last whatever long, is to influence those who organize events or HR practices to be a little bit more inclusive.
Mhm.
Um, Even when you order catering for the office, to be
Mhm.
mindful of different cultures.
Mhm.
Like you said, for your son, the sandwich was a foreign thing. And likewise for some people who are new, I know there's that expectation, and look, whether we like it or not, all of us want to fit in. That's human nature. But you need to know what it is you're fitting into, and that's what takes a bit of time to learn, to dissect, and you really, like I was saying earlier, when I was learning English, it felt like moving parts in my brain. And with learning a new culture, you also learn. And we're lucky to be in this era where diversity and inclusion is on the agenda. It's almost like a political agenda. So it becomes an agenda for workplaces, and it's in the Fair Work Act. And people, there's quite a lot of protections with that, but there is also a lot of willingness within different workplaces to actually accommodate people with different needs. I understand there are probably some small businesses and other kind of more private or corporate places where not everyone will feel comfortable, but within most community services sector, we usually try to build inclusive culture where we take time to celebrate people's special holidays, or we encourage people to share, because we don't know if it is somebody's special holidays, we may not know about it. So
wonderful to know, right?
Yeah, it's a way of educating your colleagues about it.
That's right. And I tell you, one of the best times working for MMRC when I was working there was the lunchtime. We had so many people from different places, and every week you had a feast. Like everyone would bring something, explain what it was, and then was the smell of food and always the happiness of sharing.
Yes.
Right. So food is something that put us together, to bring us together, in curiosity and what makes everything to flow. Like you said naive or lack of intelligence, but I think you were just curious about to know how you could do it, right? And then when you get someone that is completely different from you, the only way you can get to know, you understand what it's the other side is being curious.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a key, in the right context. That is so beautiful to actually share and learn. And I've had a lot of those experiences also with clients when I was working as a counselor. I was a family counselor, and I had to do a lot of home visits. And in 2007, 8, 9, that time, Perth had a lot of refugees from African countries, Ethiopia, South Sudan. And of course, my job was, to go and see what supports particular family might need. Often there were behavioral issues with children, and just connecting with a system. But I realized how important it is that I firstly respect their household and respect whatever they do in the house, but also how important it was for clients to share food or drinks with me. And we often, as colleagues, we laughed about it. You end up having, tea with hot milk and 5 cups, 5 spoonfuls of sugar in it. But that's how they drink their tea.
And you put weight on because you are just moving.
You just have to. Yes. It's rude to refuse, particularly in early sessions when you're building that connection with the client. But I also had clients who would say, I want to cook lunch for you. And I would try and be professional and explain, look, I really can't. It's not, I can't. My boss will not approve. And when I come to see, I'm happy to have a cup of tea, but please don't cook lunch. And then eventually you come to a home visit and lunch is already served on the table, because they really want you to eat their food. They really it's about pride.
And showing their appreciation.
Yes, it was about giving back. That's right.
Yes, the appreciation. And I love it. And then one of the questions that I want to ask you is, from your memories that you have living in Bosnia, I know Perth is a very multicultural. You can find all kind of foods here now. When I came here 25 years ago, I had to go everywhere to find something to get the Brazilian food. But what kind of food do you miss or has the taste of childhood?
Well, the food that has the taste of childhood is a Bosnian version of pita. And I know that across different cultures, there is pita this and pita that.
And they are wonderful. I love them.
But Bosnian pita is a fresh filo pastry that you open it up fresh, and then it's with different fillings. So for me, it is that sort of filo filled with zucchini, and it's light. It smells like coming straight out of the bakery, and it's not very good for the waistline if you have too much.
It can be very addictive, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And what kind of herbs or spice do you use to put in the zucchini? Because probably you have some specific ones to get that taste. Which ones?
Interesting with this one, you don't really use spices. It's just salt. But the crispy pastry, when it's cooked, you just drip a bit with cream. So cream gives it that sort of, really goes well with, like I said, it's kind of a spring dish over there. Spring, summer, so a sort of dish. But it's just beautiful crispy pastry.
And you do make at home for your kids?
I do sometimes, not often, not because if I do, I eat too much of it.
But then you have mama. Does your mama make for you?
My mum does all the time. She's right now at my house with the kids there, and she's probably brought a meal for everybody.
That's so wonderful. It's so warming and family.
Yeah.
So now we are coming to at the end of a conversation that has been so wonderful. And I would like to ask you two questions. One is, what advice or suggestion would you give to someone who wants to come to Australia and to make their lives more easier, or make their lives more, what is the term? More possible for opportunities? What suggestions would you give to them? Someone outside of Australia, for any reason they are coming, or a refugee, or a migrant, or an expat. They're coming. They don't know anything about Australia, or what they know is on the internet.
Look, my advice will be what I think what worked for me, and that is be open-minded. Be open to new things. Don't be rigid in your expectations. And the other thing is what I was saying earlier, be patient. Things will happen. There are a lot of opportunities here, but it's not always obvious to get to them. It's not always easy, but it is possible. And if you're persistent, patient, and you're open to, sometimes I know I was raised in, I suppose people from the Balkans can be quite direct, cut through, it's that sort of thing. It's either black or white. There is nothing in between. And I had to learn that really life is not like that. Wherever you live, I think it's the wisdom you acquire as you get older. But also, navigating your way in a new culture, sometimes you don't go from A to B. You have to divert. There's a lot of detours.
Detours.
Yeah, and that requires patience, and that's sort of being kind to yourself and think, okay, if that's what you plan to achieve in 2 years, maybe it's going to take 4 years, but you'll get there.
Yes. And the other question is a suggestion that would give for someone who is here in Australia and is still struggling to find their feet. So what suggestion or advice would you give to them?
Find help, because the help is there. the support is there, but and you may need to, it's very unfortunate, you may need to knock on a few doors until you find the right help that you need. There are a lot of support services, there are a lot of help, and again, having an open mind about new things, and just keep exploring, keep asking. Yeah, there are a lot of things here, but they're not very obvious. You really need to, that's the way this system works. That's why I was saying it takes a while to actually learn to navigate the system. So yeah, keep asking until you find the right help that you need.
Yes. And when you feel that is right for you, also,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes
Yeah.
you see a service, but it's not right for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, Samira, thank you very much for this conversation today. I enjoyed so much. And for you that have been watching us, thank you very much. And remember to subscribe to the channel, and see you next time. So thank you, Samira.
Thank you, Sema. Bye.
Bye. We're done.
Whoa.
So this is the conversation. Is something that comes as we talk, nothing as predicted. Right? How did you feel?
Oh, very comfortable. Very good. I was worried about going on too much with different tangents, being mindful of the time. I wasn't sure what timeline you gave us.
Oh, it's okay. It's fine. So what I'll do now, this video will be edited, and then I will send you a link to the premiere. So the premiere is always on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So you can give the link to anyone who wants to watch you, and you want them to watch you. And if you have a Instagram account, so let me know, because then I tag you and I put the promo about your video, and that's it. So and I need to say thank you very much. And
Oh, thank you, Sema. This was lovely. Very comfortable. You made me feel very comfortable. So I appreciate that. And yeah, well, have a good time in Brazil, traveling.
I will. I'm looking forward. And also, I will send you the link to the career construction, so you have an idea. Because as you were talking, I could see the theory on you, like every aspect. And I said, that's it. So for migrants, I believe this is one of the theories that really fits well, because it's the life experience. In moving to a new country, there is no way that your life will not change. There is a change, and you need to perceive the changes.
Yes. Well, I'm, I love hearing there is a theory for something. It just explains everything, otherwise you're in the dark. You're sort of paddling, not knowing whether you're going to swim out of it or not. But when you know it's been researched and somebody's actually written about it, then it makes sense.
Yes,
So yeah, I look forward to reading about it.
wonderful. So enjoy your evening, and I look forward for one day to eat your pita. So
that would be lovely. I look forward to that too. Yeah, we must organize the time. See you,
thank
Sema.
you. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.